the simplest way to approach the skin tone. And in this case, he proposes to use, and you can see, I'm just gonna, basically four tones: titanium white, yellow ochre, and burnt sienna. So this is, if you have done skin tones with me, this is basically very similar to what I use, only 3 tones. And then right next to the 3 tones, you can see the color, what it looks like. Based on the ratio of how you mix or blend the paint, you're gonna have a warmer or a cooler, sorry about this, final result, I guess. And then after that, if you wanna darken, if you wanna darken the skin tone, he brings some ultramarine blue, and then you can create a darker note. So I love this simplified version of a formula. And we take it a step further when we do skin tones. Because on our palette, I love to have ecru, the linen tone. So for me, ecru sort of like acts as a combination of the titanium and the yellow ochre. It's a much paler version of those two combined. So I simplify it even further. I use the ecru and burnt sienna, and then I can get this tan salmon color. So skin tones are not specific to the person, basically. We can, when we talk about skin tones, as I mentioned during the webinar on Friday, you cannot think in regards of race, because you have to put that out of the equation and think about how the light reflects on the skin. And the truth is that depending on the light, you're gonna have multiple different kinds of values and temperature and hue on the skin. It doesn't matter if the skin is darker or lighter. There's always highlights, there's gonna be always highlights and shadows. So the best idea for me, it's to concentrate on neutrals first, to anchor everything on neutrals. Even with Velasquez, I think it was Velasquez painting. So on the skin, you're gonna see very pale and almost white or very light skin tones, and then really dark skin tones on the point of contact. So what I love, and we love to teach this, we loved to teach this to kids when we were teaching kids, because skin tones in painting are not about race. So this is something that I feel sets the right seeds in the younglings to become artists. Anyhow, so for me, simplification is better. Ecru and burnt sienna work really well as a base. And then the way I darken it, a color that is not here, I bring raw umber. Raw umber is a deeper, darker, more neutral brown that can really create a darker version without making it too different. A new color that I bought recently that I love also, it's the Van Dyke brown. The Van Dyke brown, it's almost like asphalt. It's really dark, but it also is a great neutral tone to incorporate to skin tones in order to make them darker. Bringing ultramarine blue will also darken them in a different way, because what you're doing is bringing an opposite temperature. And when you mix 2 different temperatures, what you create is a neutral tone. So when you bring ultramarine blue into the equation, which is a very dark color, you can also darken the mix. The bottom line is that skin tones are about 2 things, neutrals and a wide spectrum, from darker to lighter and cooler to warmer. In addition to that, to something that we haven't talked about it, but I think it's very important, and this book doesn't talk much about it or at all, is that when you create skin tones, if you work on the skin tones further, there are two tones that create what's called third notes. So our skin, it's not just one single color with highs and lows of light, but there are certain areas where the skin has the capillaries like closer to the skin and creates a warmer version of the skin. And there are some shadows, especially on the recessed parts on the neck, that creates more of a colder version of the skin. So for third notes, which means more advanced glow or light bouncing or recalibrating temperature in the skin, we use um, reds, basically. I'm sorry, purples, red and blue. Oh my gosh, I had the blank on Friday. I just couldn't believe it. Reds and blues, a purplish red, a purple works as a great warming tone for skin tones. And then green, maybe the viridian green could be a good tone for skin tones as well. So what you do when you bring green or purple to a skin tone, you only add a very tiny bit, not too much, because you don't want the mixture or the blending or the color to completely obliterate the skin tone. But to amplify or diversify or expand the uh, the tones and colors within that spectrum of skin tones, bringing purple and green into the equation or the formula can give you amazing results. Redder um, skin tone in areas where the capillaries are closer to the skin, also on the lips as well. The purple works very well. And again, areas where the skin is recessed or there's a shadow or there's a fold, the shadow turns more into a greenish look, regardless of the race. So race, skin tone is a great equalizing concept in oil painting or in painting, and I love that.